Welcome back to another edition of Couto Camera Company live stream side-by-side comparison. Tonight we're going to take a look at the Canon FD 50mm f1.8 SC and the Nikon Nikkor-H-C. So we want to go through 10 categories, 10 points each. We're going to go through build, bokeh, color, center sharpness, edge sharpness, the split screen, the optical build, the reputation, the minimum focus distance, the speed, and then we'll have an overall scorecard. So we're going to take a look at these two lenses. We're going to go through as quick as we can so we can cover a lot. And if we miss anything, we'll go back and make corrections. If I miss anything, please let me know in the comments and we'll do our best to address it. So with that said, let's get into it. So the first lens is the Canon FD 50mm f1.8 SC. And this is a great lens. You can see here I'm focused in about a little more than an arm's length away, and so as such I have some great bokeh in the background. When you have a nice close minimum focus and a wide open lens, you tend to get that. So on the Canon, as I slide back here, I have really great sharpness here at the irises, and let's see how the hair and forehead here, pretty sharp, good color. It's a great overall lens. We're going to take a look at the build of this lens. So it's an all metal construction. Well, it has a rubber comfort grit there for the focus. It's kind of a rubbery plastic, and they tend to hold up pretty well. It has a silver chrome breech lock mount, so that is unique to the Canon FD, the SC, the SSC, and the FL lenses. It's probably the R lenses as well. I haven't studied the R lenses all that much, but nonetheless, we'll take a look. This is a well-built lens. They're rugged. I don't have a lot of problems with these lenses overall. Usually they hold up pretty well. Sometimes on the SSC lenses, some of them get oil on the irises, but the builds tend to be pretty rugged. So taking a quick look at the Nikon, we're going to look at the build here and give that a score. But first, just to give you an overall impression of the lens, I like the way this looks. I like the colors on the Nikon a bit better. I feel like the Canon has an edge on the sharpness, but the Nikon, I like the color and the overall. The bokeh is really nice in the background. It's a great lens. Taking a closer look at it, it's got some metal scallops, and it's got no rubber at all. It's a nice, well-built lens. Again, I don't have too many problems with these ones. I feel like the focus could be a bit wiggly, but it's never truly loose or anything like that. So comparing the two lenses, these aren't their best built lenses over the course of the history of the two lenses. So let's just go ahead and for the build, let's give them both an 8. So let me just quickly get those scores into the card. Okay, so now we've got them up there as 8s for the build. The next we're going to look at the bokeh. So a good place to look at the bokeh would be here. So on the left side of the screen you have the hanging lights, and then on the right side you have the camera shelf. Two different styles of bokeh. You've got kind of the bubble bokeh with the yellow lights, and then the blue background gives you kind of the background effect. We can take a look over at the Nikon's bokeh. It's about the same. If we were comparing and contrasting, I think the Canon has, this is Canon here, on the camera shelf we have a lot more detail in the bokeh, and I don't feel like some of that's missing here. This black camera in the center is kind of vanished. I guess it's similar here. I want to give the edge on the bokeh to the Canon, but I think they're close enough that we can just go ahead and give them both an 8, because they're definitely not a 9. A 9, if you had a faster lens, maybe a an f1.4 or certainly a f1.2, you're going to get a lot more bokeh. Or if you have sort of a specialty type lens, maybe like a Helios. So in here we have the builds are both rated an 8 so far. The bokeh are both rated an 8. Next, we're going to take a look at color. So for the color, let's go back here. So I've got a white light on this side, or sort of a bluish white light, and light with a gel on this side. So we're going to try to just do our best to work on this side. So here, I think that the Nikon has better blues, better reds. I like the magenta as well. I think they're roughly equivalent on the browns and the neutrals, and overall they're both doing a great job. So I'm happy with both lenses on the color, but I do think that the Nikon just popped a bit more in some of those colors that I mentioned. So what I'm going to do is give the Nikon, I'm going to give it a 9 for the color, and I'm going to give the Canon an 8 for the color. So I've always been a Canon guy, but right now at this point, Nikon is just got a 1-point lead there. So next we're going to take a look at the center sharpness of each lens. So here we are, out of focus on both lenses, in focus on both lenses, falling out of focus. They're both good. At this point here, if you look at the lines of my forehead, maybe my hair, and the glasses, you can see I think there's more detail on the eyebrow on the Canon than there is on the Nikon right now. I lean towards giving the sharpness to Canon, but in the center, they're both very sharp. Let's take a look on the edges, but for now, let's take a note of that. They're both, I would say they're not the sharpest lenses out there. We're going to see some much sharper lenses when we're doing more testing. But for the center, I would give them both a solid 8. I don't see any reason that they both don't deserve an 8 on the center. So let's take a quick look at the, I know we already scored them both an 8 actually, but just to kind of reinforce that, this is the 2x crop. I should have taken a look at that before, but the 2x crop should sort of reinforce what we talked about. Let's see. I'll let you see for yourself. I'm trying to give you a good shot to look at, and with the 2x crop, and it's hard to see the screen at the same time, but for the sharpness in the center, we're going with 8s for both. Nonetheless, I wanted to get in there. So let's take a look at the edge. So the edge sharpness. So we are out of focus here. Canon's managed to get into focus a bit more than the Nikon here. They're both about equivalent, and then they're both pretty much out there. So on the edge, it looks like Canon is definitely maintaining some sharpness over the Nikon. So they're both very good, especially compared to maybe a zoom lens. They're both excellent on the edge, but I give the edge to Canon on this one. So for the edge, I'm going to go. They're not the best on the edge of all lenses ever, but let's just take a closer look. See if we can. I have to just slide over a bit more. Sorry. See if we can bring this back. No. Okay, we'll do the best we can. Okay. Here we go. This will work better. Okay, sorry for that. So here we're the 2x center crop. Let's take a look. Oh no, two. This actually says center. It should say. That should say that's a 2 times edge crop here. So let me see if I can fix that. That would be great. But I would say on this one, the Canon is definitely getting sharper right here. So this is sharper than the Nikon. And I don't see any point where the Nikon even gets any sharper than it was there. So this is on the edge. Again, I'll have to update that text for the next stream. I don't want to slow us down here. But I think this is a clear winner for the Canon. So let's go back to home. So with that, let's get into the scorecard, the edge sharpness. So I think that was an obvious winner for the Canon, and I would still give it an 8, not a 9, because we're going to look at some lenses that are even sharper on the edge than this one. But we've got it in there for an 8 in the Nikon. So Nikon fell back 1. So it gained some and then it lost some. Okay, so next we're going to take a look at the split screen and just give an overall impression of the two lenses and try to get a sense of which one we think is sort of nicer or better. So we have basically a split screen right down the middle, so you can see when I back out and if I get too close. So I'll try to get right into the right spot and take a look at both sides. So on this one, we'll try to get the Nikon in focus and shift across the screen here. I love the way the Canon looks right now. It really, the Canon, if you look while my face is in screen, the Canon is sharp on basically on both eyes. Then when I move over to the Nikon, I never really get both eyes that well in focus. Maybe right around here. But with the Canon, it's easy, and I feel like there's a lot of area here. And if I duck out of the shot and just look at the bokeh, they both have plenty of bokeh. So that's not a concern. Here, this is where I think Canon has definitely a point ahead. So they're not 9s or 10s. I think that on the split screen, Canon's going to get an 8 and Nikon is going to get a 7. So let's just get those in because we want to keep this moving as quickly as possible. Okay, I found this here. Let's just quickly fix this. So for the split screen, we're going to go with an 8 for the Canon and a 7 for the Nikkor. Okay. Moving on, we're not going to go back on the title. I'll fix that later. So next, taking a look at the optical formula for the two lenses. Let's take a look at the optics next here. So they are both 6 elements in 4 groups. This is known as the double Gaussian. It's basically what the planar was formulated from, and then a lot of lenses have used this double Gaussian design. So I like to look at the two lenses whenever I compare and take a look at the optics and see if they're similar or not. And let's take a look at an overlay and see if they're a match here. We have a match. So that's great. So they are very similar lenses. They perform similarly. They're both kind of neck and neck. So for the optics, they're both solid designs and they both get 8s because they're not 50mm f1.4s, they're f1.8s. So they're not going to get any more than an 8. On the optical design. So let's just get that into the scorecard and then we'll move right along as quickly as possible. If you're enjoying this live stream, please subscribe. We're up to 200 subscribers so far. We need to get to 1,000 as our next milestone. If we can do that, we'll unlock a lot of perks with YouTube, so it would be great to do that. I've been really trying to level up this live stream. I'm looking to add focus controllers to the two cameras so that I can pull focus during the live stream. That's going to, I think, add a new level. So that's my ongoing project. I'm doing research on that now and kind of figuring out what I want to get. If you have any recommendations, leave them in the comments below. I'm thinking about the Nucleus Nano or the Nucleus M, and I'd probably like to have them both just wired here, and so I'm trying to figure out which one. I'm doing some research on those too. So anyways, back to it. Sorry to get off topic. The next, so we're up so far to optics we just finished. We're on to reputation. So let's take a look at the two lenses and what they are. They're both considered standard lenses, 50 millimeters. The Canon, this was manufactured from 1973 to 1979. It's a 50 millimeter f1.8 SC. SC stands for spectra coated. Again, it's 6 elements in 4 groups. It's a great lens, and you can always research the Canon literature. You can find it online. That's a great one there, the SC. So let's take a look. So this is about reputation. We're kind of looking at the reputations of the two lenses. Nikon is a classic. This Nikon Nikkor-H-C was made from 1972 to 1974. Before this, there was the Nikkor-H. So this information here actually says Nikkor-H. And I didn't find anything specific to the Nikkor-H-C. So one of the notes here is that the Nikkor-H was on sale in 1964, and then the Nikkor-H-C was on sale in 1972. So again, the Nikkor was, this particular model was from 1972 to 1974. It shares the same design and almost everything with the H. If you know any differences between the H and the HC, please comment below and just kind of let us know what the differences are. We're going to take a look at a lot of different lenses in the future. So for reputation, these are two of the very best. So I think that there's no reason that we wouldn't give them both a solid 9 for reputation. These aren't the certain Nikons could probably get a 10 for reputation, and certain Canons could get a 10 for reputation, but for these two particular lenses, a reputation, they've earned a solid 9 after all these years. The next is the minimum focus distance. So the difference between the two lenses is the minimum focus distance on the Canon is 0.6 meters, whereas the minimum focus distance on the Nikkor is 0.45 meters. So the Nikon Nikkor gets an edge on the minimum focus distance. I'm not going to pull the focus right now. When I get the focus controllers locked in, we'll pull some focus and take a look. But for now, we're going to give the edge to Nikon because they had the 0.45 meters, whereas Canon was 0.6. So 0.45 versus 0.6. I'm rating them as a Canon gets a 7 and the Nikon is going to get an 8 because neither one of them is an extreme minimum focus. You have plenty of other lenses out there that are much closer. So, but these ones are fine. So Canon's going to get a 7 and Nikon is going to get an 8. Okay, the next rating is the speed. So the speed is kind of an obvious one here. The Nikon is slower by 1/3 of a stop. So we have basically the Canon is a f1.8 lens and the Nikkor is a f1.2. They're both wide open right now. So they're both wide open right now. I'm on auto ISO. I have 2 Sony A7s here side by side. They're both on auto ISO. and wide open. I'm on 1/24. Tonight I went with no filters because I was thinking about, you know, adding filters. I've done it in the past, but I thought it'd probably be better to go without it. And so for the speed, this is a pretty easy one. They're not 50mm They're not 50mm 1.4s. They're just 1.8s. So for the speed, they're not going to get knocked down a lot, but the Canon's going to get an 8 and the Nikon is going to get a 7. There are slower 50mm, and these two are good and they perform well overall. So let's just take a look at the scorecard here. So we've got build, we've got a tie on the build, we've got a tie on the bokeh, edge goes to Nikon on the color. On the center sharpness, we're tied at 8s. On the edge, we saw a difference, and Canon got the lead there. On the split screen, Canon got the lead because of that sharpness really shined and helped pop. The optics, they were both solid designs, but they're not 50mm 1.4s or 1.2s. The reputation, they're awesome lenses. They're solid. The minimum focus distance, they're not macros, but you can get in plenty close. And the speed, 8 and 7. So for a grand total, we have the Canon. Let's tally them in here, and we'll kind of do a reveal. Let me get them plugged in. Here we go. 80 and 79. So the Canon gets an 80, and the Nikon gets Nikkor-H-C gets a 79. So where does this leave us? Well, we still have plenty of lenses to look at, and in fact, these two lenses are just sort of early lenses in a series of great lenses that have kind of led to the modern day lenses. So there's plenty to look at in terms of future lenses. On these two, I'm giving the edge to the Canon, but you can see one is rated an 80 and one is rated a 79. So they're kind of B-, C+ lens. But the good thing is they're both usually right around or under $50, and they're a lot of fun to have. They're a lot of fun to own and collect. So you can always check out CoutoCamera.com. We have plenty of stuff. That's where you can find all our gear, including adapters, follow focus gears, lenses, rare lens caps, and plenty more. So check it out. And but in the meanwhile, looking ahead to the future, after these two lenses, as I said, these are kind of the first in a line of many. In the next live stream, we're going to take a look at, I guess you would say, their younger brothers in a certain sense, or younger sisters. And these are the Canon FD, new FD 50mm f1.8. I think you'll recognize this lens by some of the colors, and that's a great lens. This is the newer version, and then we're going to take a look at the another Nikon. So we'll compare the two, and then we're going to do some side-by-side comparisons, looking at the Canon compared to the Canon, the Nikon compared to the Nikon. If I can get the process down and you know, keep it moving, and I hope we did that tonight. Looks like for a time we're up to a half an hour. I'd like to get it down to 15 minutes in the future, so we're gonna have to work through that. And but in the meanwhile, I think we've gone through everything tonight. I didn't get to show you everything. I'd love to show some studio lighting instead of the cinema lighting and take a look at other things, but we're gonna keep working on this. So for now, we're starting out with the B-, the C+ lenses, get sort of the process down. And then I've got some really special lenses to share with you in the future. So please do subscribe. We're at 200 now. We're trying to get to 1,000. And I appreciate your support. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I look forward to seeing you soon. All right, take care. Bye.